The village you're looking at has often been touted as one of the prettiest, if not the prettiest, in Sussex. But is this just online article hyperbole, or is it in fact the real deal? And how is it linked to one of the most famous historical legends of all time? Well, let me take you on a virtual tour. So to get our bearings, our destination is 2 stops west of Chichester on the train, although the station is about a mile outside of the village centre, for reasons which will become understandable soon enough. After walking said mile through mostly nondescript roads, we come to the heart of Bosham, a harbourside village with much more lurking beneath its surface than just a trick pronunciation. Bosham's known history goes back about 2,000 years, although the Roman aspect is disputed. This is in relation to the claim that in the 1st century AD, Emperor Vespasian once had a villa here back when he was merely commander of the 2nd Legion in Britain, being only 4 miles from Novum Majus Regionorum, or Chichester to you and me. This is somewhat plausible, but evidence has proven elusive. Moving on to the 7th century, courtesy of the writings of Northumbrian saint the Venerable Bede, we can infer that Bosham may well be the most ancient site in Sussex with a continuous tradition of Christianity, and in fact the parish council outright asserts this. St Bede wrote that when St Wilfrid came to convert the South Saxons in 681 AD, there was already a Celtic monastery here. The first church here would likely have dated from during or shortly after Wilfrid's time here. As for the present church, well, it's not that much younger, being that it retains elements of a Saxon chancel and tower, albeit with additions from the Norman era to the 15th century. According to legend, this became the resting place of King Canute's daughter after she tragically drowned in a nearby mill stream at the age of just 8. Canute, by the way, was the Danish King of England from 1016 to 1035. You probably know him best as the guy that tried to hold back the tide. There's just one problem though. This historic legend is entirely backwards. The event is widely believed to have taken place in Bosham itself, although others suggest London and Southampton as potential alternatives. What all sources on the matter seem to agree on is that Canute's intention was in fact to prove to his sycophantic courtiers that even a king is powerless in the face of the forces of Mother Nature. Thus he likely threw a few mock gestures at the water for as long as it took for it to come up to his ankles before turning to the crowd, having made his point. How this legend became twisted so as to paint the Denmark-born King of England in the opposite light isn't entirely clear, but let's just say that Anglo-Danish relations have improved a lot over the last 1,000 years. But the village's Saxon-era history doesn't end there, because in 1064, Harold Godwinson set sail from his main residence, right here in Bosham, on a diplomatic mission to Normandy. According to the Normans, his purpose was to confirm Edward the Confessor's promise of the English throne to William of Normandy. According to the Anglo-Saxons, though, Harold was there to negotiate the release of his brother and nephew, who had been held hostage there for the last 12 years. Whatever the true reason, Bosham has been woven into history, quite literally appearing in the Bio Tapestry, along with the following caption: Ubi Harold dux Anglorum et sui militis equitant ad Bosham Ecclesia, which translates to where Harold, Earl of the English, and his retinue ride to Bosham, the church. As you may well know, at the Battle of Hastings, Harold was defeated by what the Bio Tapestry implies was a lucky Norman arrow. The burial place of Harold Godwinson has often been assumed to be Waltham Abbey in Essex. However, in the 1950s, a tomb next to that of Canute's daughter was discovered in Holy Trinity Church here in Bosham. This contained the remains of a corpse missing a head and a leg, consistent with descriptions of Harold's mutilated body. Furthermore, a contemporary account from Norman priest William of Poitiers claimed that Harold was buried by the seashore, and considering Waltham Abbey is about 30 miles inland, this would back up the hypothesis of Bosham being the resting place of the last Anglo-Saxon king. One thing's for sure, this is a village packed to the brim with history, which gives us a little context as we consider how it fares visually. If you're a regular viewer on this channel, you'll know that I have an ongoing series where I give my top 10 prettiest towns in a given county, but only after having visited them all in person, so as to make it as unbiased as possible. Villages are a bit tricky though, as there are thousands of them, hundreds in Sussex alone, which is why I'm presenting this question in an open-ended, semi-rhetorical manner. Is this Sussex's prettiest village? And note the use of Sussex rather than West Sussex. In 1974, the historic county of Sussex was split in two, East Sussex and West Sussex, although many of the locals seem not to care about this division. Also, by not confining the question to West Sussex, we open up the likes of Alfriston and Ditchling into the debate. On the aesthetic front, Bosham has something that is almost unheard of when it comes to villages, namely a skyline. And not just any skyline at that. This one, whether intentionally or not, follows the Florentine school of thought that one building in particular, typically a religious edifice, should stand the tallest and draw the eye towards it. This being of course Holy Trinity Church with its Saxon origins, although the top story of the tower was added in the 15th century. The spire isn't the tallest by any stretch, but relative to the surrounding buildings, it stands out just enough to guide its congregation from the farthest boundaries of the parish, a far cry from the city of London, where once St Paul's Cathedral stood proud as the tallest building in the capital for centuries, but is now dwarfed by a scalpel and a walkie-talkie. You couldn't make it up. As for the harbour area, that evokes the kind of scenes you might typically see in Cornwall, Devon, or even the Welsh coast, but with a twist being that from here you can jump on a direct train to London, taking under 2 hours, after you've walked a mile to the station, where the terrain is more forgiving towards trains, that is. In other words, this is a place that can give you that feeling that all seasoned travellers will be familiar with, where you suddenly wonder to yourself, where am I again? So in summary, here's a village whose history is very much the history of the South Saxons. Does its visual appeal live up to the hype generated in various online articles? Having been there in person, I'd say absolutely. But is it Sussex's prettiest village? Well, that's where I'd have to say, I don't know. But what do you think? Which Sussex villages stand out for you? If there's enough further for a particular village, then I might just pay to visit as well. If it were possible to visit every village in the county, or even the country, then I would. But being that I'm not immortal, I'll just have to settle for a bit of cherry picking. After all, just like King Canute, I too am powerless against the forces of time and tide. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.